right, good morning, everybody. We're here once again for another edition of Ask Us Anything. So I'm sitting here today with Cristina, and I can't tell you how excited I am that we've got all these great agents, high-producing agents that are joining us to give back to the real estate community. And that's why we really do this. There's no money in for us. It's just fun to talk about what's working in real estate, what's working for us, having people ask questions. We can help them on their real estate journey. So I love doing it. People get value out of it. So again, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. I mean, if you take an hour out of your day to come join us, it means a lot to us. So, all right, as we get rolling, we're going to be hearing from questions. Remember, this is Ask Us Anything. So any questions you have, go ahead and give them. We'll see what kind of answer we can give. And if we don't have questions, we'll just start talking about things in real estate until somebody gets a question they think of.
Yeah.
Oh, we already got a question. First question. What is the best way to get new listings? I'll let you start with that one if you like.
Well, there's a lot of ways. I think, the question is a little different if you're brand new.
Mm-hmm.
So if the person is on there asking still and you want to clarify, like the context, brand new, established, I would probably take a slightly different angle.
Yes.
But I'll start when I started, and we were just starting to compile our list of sphere of influence, people that we knew, start to market that to them. So that's an obvious one, is you've got to be in touch with your people that know you and past clients if you do have them. So whether you're new or established, even if you're brand new, you've got to start to get in front of them so that they think that you're somebody, right? So Gary Keller says the 33 touch.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, we read the book, The Millionaire and Real Estate Agent. We just followed what it said. And we were like, okay, we believe it. If they don't see or hear of you about 33 times a year in the context of real estate, they don't remember you exist.
Well, think about it too, right? Because now it's so distracting out there. Your cell phones, social media, people have to see you so much more often to even remember you. We just tune out so much now.
Yeah.
We're all over marketed to and desensitized. So why is somebody going to remember you if they see you one time? It's just not going to happen, right? So I think that 33 touch, which was written probably early 2000s, if I remember right. Yeah. I mean, that might even expand these days because, again, there's just so much people are inundated with marketing these days.
Correct. The 33 touch is like established piece of newsletters, e-newsletters, things like that. On top of that, and with those social media, because what we're saying, if you're not weekly, you don't exist on social media at minimum, but it really should be daily, just about daily. So that's very important with that. So doing that is important, and it will set you apart, right? When I got my license in 2010, I think there was about 7,000 real estate agents because everybody ran away.
You had your license at the weirdest time.
And let's see, how many are there right now?
Oh, I mean, right now in the 23,000 or something like that.
I know it was at least 22,000. Yeah. So it's a saturated market because there's only, we've been sitting at a solid, 5,000 homes for inventory, give or take. That means it's fierce competition out there.
Big time. And
people, because of social media, are more aware of people being realtors than they ever were in the past.
Yep.
So, so if you don't have a big sphere or you're just starting the market, just to finish answering that first question of how do you get your listing, there are things that do work. So first of all, hold open houses. If you don't have your own listings for anyone on the team you're on or the brokerage you're with, you will get clients out of there. It also will get you people talking or get you talking to people face to face more. Door knocking, it does work. It's a long-term play, but again, it makes you a better, braver real estate agent because you get more comfortable talking to more people sooner. So what I used to do, we used to actually sell a lot in St. Louis Park when we first started, and we would hold an open house and I'd go an hour before and door knock and invite all the neighbors. And I try to take notes on anyone that thought they might be interested in selling and things like that. And after about an hour of that, I got back in my car to go into the open house and I realized I had a huge pen mark across my cheek.
Nice.
And I'm sitting there being like, I wonder how many people I spoke to who
never said anything.
Young girl and they didn't say anything. But funny enough, one of the guys actually did call me back about 2 years later, referred his mother, and was and again, but that wouldn't have happened had I not actually ended up putting him on our 33 touch and our marketing campaigns.
I want to expand on a couple of things you said too, because you brought up the distinction between new agent versus seasoned agent, right? And as a new agent, what are we always trying to accomplish as a new agent? One, we don't have the credibility with our sphere, so it takes time to one of the reasons you get to stay in front of them so much is to build that credibility and have people remember you're in real estate. But also the other side of that is, let's face it, we don't always have a lot of money to start with when we're brand new. Yeah. So one of the things that we look at with brand new agents is where are you going to get the most bang for your buck? Are you going to do things that could be more time investment? or a money investment.
Yeah.
You know, so a call and text and email strategy, a door knocking strategy, things that don't cost a lot of money for a new agent is oftentimes looks better. So I look at it like where are you going to get the most bang for your buck?
Yeah.
In your relationships, if you look every single year, 60% of every transaction that happens in the US still happens because of a relationship. You know, you think about your sphere of influence, right? And what that really means. And you can break that down into different types of people. Friends and family is what we usually think of a sphere, but professional network. I mean, we don't have the past clients when we're brand new. So that's difficult. That's usually a big, I mean, let's face it, a seasoned agent gets a lot from past clients. We don't have that as brand new. So friends, family, professional network, that's where a lot of it comes from. But to stay relevant in front of them and to build credibility does take a little time. It takes some effort. The open houses, I love that because again, it's almost free.
Yep.
And these are people that dang near are hand raisers. They're not coming to the open house for the most part because they're bored on a Sunday. They might tell you that, but for the most part, most of them are thinking and moving pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So they're almost hand raisers saying, I'm in the marketplace. One thing that I will suggest with open houses, though, if you're using that to leverage to get listings, is you have to understand two things. One, you're not going to be successful by hosting, one open house. This is something on a consistent basis. You should be doing 2 of these a weekend or 3 a week. I mean, as many as you can get yourself into. And while you're at the open, when it's slow, you can use that office time to get other things done, to make other calls, send out other marketing pieces, to do more social media posting, use it as your office time. But people are walking into your open houses. You never know when it's going to be the one that's going to actually want to work with you. But if you're not there, you're not going to get it, right? So for new agents, I think that is great. Also, once you start getting listings, one thing I'm a firm believer in is leveraging those listings to get more opportunity, right? And that's a whole different dynamic we can talk about, lead generating your listings, using it for your own branding yourself as a local market expert to get more people to talk to you. And I think you'd agree with this. Most people that are considered listing agents, and they don't do a lot with buyers, they're viewed differently than what a buyer's agent is by the public. I mean, there's a different skill set, a different personality, a different thing they bring to the table. And people that want to work with a true listing agent, you're going to have to present yourself that way. You're going to be presenting yourself more as a marketer. Buyer's agents are much more known for their empathy and, the ability to work with people long-term and drive people around the car, build their relationships. Listing agents, true and blue, are marketers. They're thought of that way. They're thought of, I need to talk to Cristina to sell my house. She's who sells houses in this neighborhood. So it takes time to establish that, I think. But I would say, kind of time this back, I would say your relationships are huge. Your open houses are huge. Leveraging the listings you have to get more listings is huge. And if you've got the internal fortitude to knock on those doors, expires and physicals are a great way if you have that personality type to do it. Me, I always hated it, but there's people that crushed it with that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, we've had opportunities with that. The other thing I was going to add is that if you're on a team that has leads, or on a brokerage that has significant leads, it's an absolute no-brainer in my opinion. I mean, we know the math, how many calls it takes on average to get enough lives, and with the right scripting and practice, with enough lives, you're going to get X number of set appointments and met appointments. And there's a predictability that you can get with that. And it's again, the law of numbers. One open house isn't going to get you probably a real lead, one single one, but enough of those is going to get you enough leads.
Correct.
Same thing with calling. And I really like to look at it like pillars of a business. A business has to have several pillars, right? Like a team like ours, we can't just have one lead source. And just same thing with the agents. It's like you have to be able to have several pillars. Because you can't just count only on your sphere of influence. Even as an established agent, it's a very, very poor strategy because
if people do it, and they oftentimes, especially when a market shift happens, that's when they're the most vulnerable because the one source they have starts to dry up and they don't have a fallback.
No, right. And like if most of us do a good job with our sphere of influence, we probably did a really good job finding a home for most of our sphere of influence at 3% interest rates over the last few years. And so we can't count on those people to be calling us to move anytime that quickly normally.
Correct.
So again, we have to be showing up with enough value to get the referrals and to continue building. You can never stop building new business, no matter how established you are.
Correct.
So it has to be from referrals, it has to be from leads and from prospecting, and always continue, living that mindset.
I think, for the more experienced agent too, you can look at, we talk about pillars or, verticals in your business that you pull from. Where do you actually pull business from, originate new deals? I really love geofarming as a long-term strategy. That's something as a brand new person or something you're going to start today. that won't pan out right away. That's going to be, 6 months, 12 months, 18, 24 months till it's at full maturity. And if you know how to select a geofarm really well, if you're good and well versed at this, you can look at a neighborhood, look at the turnover rates, look to see how many houses in that neighborhood. And when I say neighborhood, it could be 1,000 homes. I see people try to do this with 200 homes, just not enough. Like you need 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 to really make it work. And you look at the turnover rate, how many people sell inside of that 2,000.
Yep, you have to look out for dominant players.
That was the other
not
thing,
a good place to go into it if there's already a dominant player.
Maybe, I mean, if you don't have 80 to 85% of that market share available, if 1 to 2 people have eaten up more than that 20%, I'm going to walk away from that all day long.
Yep.
Price point's another thing too. If you're going to work that hard to work a geofarm, you probably want a price point, because let's face it, no matter how big the farm is, you're only getting a limited amount of transactions out of it. It has to be worth it. So price point, how many dominant players are in there. So my number is I want 80% market or more available without one dominant player. Also turnover rate. If I'm in a neighborhood with old Victorians that turn over once every 16 years, not the geofarm I want. I want something with 5-year turnover, Yep. So you can do those strategies, and you're looking at marketing strategies for it, social media strategies.
Can I make just a comment really quick? I think with the geofarming, so we did do that. We did that in Plymouth, and it made us the #1 team in Plymouth. We've sold well over 600 homes just in Plymouth.
Yep.
But you have to have that long-term play,
You
just
do.
like all the other marketing. And I think that's what's hard is because it's expensive, right?
It is.
I mean, well, Plymouth is 21,000 homes, so we're mainly 21,000 plus homes.
Yep.
But even if
But you didn't start that way though, right?
we did.
Did you the full
Yep.
21? Oh,
we
nice.
we just said we
Beautiful.
want to be the #1 team in Plymouth for multiple reasons,
Yep.
and we're going all out.
Yep.
But I mean, some months aren't great. Some
Mhm.
months you do get leads. I mean, Plymouth is a very competitive
It is.
area where fewer people want to leave,
Mhm.
right? So the turnover is not as our market share has continued to increase even as the number of transactions decrease.
Right.
However, right, you have to have that long-term view
Right.
in anything you do, and especially with something like geofarming. I feel like if you know in your heart that you're not the kind of person that's going to stick to it for at least a year, just don't even touch it.
No.
You're just going to waste your money.
No, I mean, like I said, it probably took you 18, 24 months to really dominate there. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't happen overnight.
No,
I mean,
it
I'm sure
doesn't.
you still got opportunity in the first quarter of
We
doing
did
it.
get
But
opportunity in the
yeah.
first year for sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, our first issue of the Plymouth Expert Advisor, the whole back cover, which was check out our listings, not one was in Plymouth. We didn't even have anything, right?
Right. Yeah.
And now we cover it, right, with listings in Plymouth. So it's fun.
I love that. So, geofarming to me is a huge long-term strategy for listing agent. People don't talk about it that much. They think about, again, how do I get into it to get more listings? Yes, we're open houses, but if you're truly going to be a true blue listing agent and dominate a market, you've got to pick that geofarm and you've got to hammer it while you're doing your other pillars, as you call it, while you're running, simultaneously. You still have to have an action plan for your SOI, for your sphere, while you're running geofarming. You can't ignore one over the other, but you have to have multiple action plans running. That's where, having the business operations behind your approach. This is where I think a lot of agents fall short. They don't have a plan. They wake up in the morning and they do what they feel like doing rather than sticking to a long-term plan.
Exactly.
And that's one of the, you want to be a listing agent, you need a real business plan.
And I think you need to work on yourself personally to develop yourself to think like that.
You
So, okay, we have another question. Should
do. We do.
tackle that
Yes.
one?
Well, I'll talk all day on that. I love how to
I know.
get
We can
Yep.
talk about that person a lot for sure. And keep asking questions, you guys. We would love to keep getting your questions.
Okay. I have a first-time home buyer who was scared to buy because of the market. They want to wait for the market to settle. What's good advice? I'll let you start with that. What do you think? What's good advice?
My advice is and this is wisdom I've gotten from coaches over the years. You can only make the best decision you can at the time with the information you have at the time.
Right.
And anyone who thinks that they're going to time the market thinks they're God. And not as last I checked, not a single one of us is God. And so all the people who last year thought that it was too crazy because of the low rates and how high prices are going up, I bet they wish they would have bought because prices have continued to go up and now rates are.
They
high.
all thought the market was going to crash in terms of price,
Correct.
right? So here, I'm going to wait for these prices to crash. And I've seen some pretty cool tools. We use one too that will demonstrate. We call it the rate price calculator. If your interest rate raises 1%, but your home sales value lowers 5%, it shows the difference between monthly payment, and you're still paying more.
Yeah.
That 1% raise, even the 5% decline, right?
Yep.
So there's some things you can show advice and tools to these buyers and sellers. I don't know if you agree with this or not, to cut you off, but for me, I always like to go back to the motivation behind why they want to buy in the first place. So I look at, talking to somebody that's trying to time the market or question if it's the right time, I go back to how motivated they are to move in the first place. Usually most people don't know what they want to move towards. They don't know the house they're going to buy yet. How many buyers change their mind through the process 1,000 times? The one thing that they do know is they want to move away from something. There's something about where they live right now they would like to change or not happy, they're not comfortable. The question is the pain of where you're living outweighing the pain of this stressful, scary move? And sometimes it just doesn't. Sometimes they're just not motivated enough. It takes them to be so motivated. I need to see a 2% rate, falling prices. I need a sweetheart of a deal or I'm not moving. I don't know that I'm going to invest a heck of a lot of time in that client at that moment.
Yeah, and I think you're right on with that one portion of it. It's like you have to get really clear on what they want. And then I think the second portion is you have to become an expert and give them expert advice. Like if you don't have enough information and knowledge about the market to educate them and then guide them to making better decisions, you're probably not going to move a lot of clients forward. I think that's a total game changer. So anybody who actually was, and I would really recommend you read the skinny, the market stats that come out every single week. You should know them every single week, right? Like how many new listings, how many went pending, number of transactions, right? And all that, and percent of asking price. But I think anybody who's been studying the market knows that inventory is a problem. So no matter what the rate changes do, and we experienced a short-term shock around, Q4 last year with the rates, more than doubling, right? And sellers still want to do overprice. So yes, it looked like, 97% of asking price, but it really wasn't. It was, prices were they were inflating at a 10 to 12% rate year on year, which isn't sustainable. But if you kind of get out of the tunnel vision of that portion, we don't have enough inventory. There's more than 3 million people in our Twin Cities metro, and there's 5,000 homes per sale, roughly 5,000 to 6,000 at any given moment. When we can talk about that with our clients, what I would say with your first-time home buyer is, look, let me tell you something, friend, right? Clients, whatever it is your rent going to stay fixed? No, rent is going to go up. Let me ask you another question. What are you paying in rent? I have single friends who are paying $2,100 a month in rent. Right. And it's like, you could easily own for less than that. So I think the conversation then becomes, do you want to put yourself, whoever buys now will be wealthier than those who stay renting, hoping things get better. Now, on the flip side, we should never put a client outside of their affordability range. No. And so if their tastes are too bougie, then maybe they should stay renting, because at least that way they don't have a debt they can't sustain. But most people are able to work reasonably and say, okay, it's going to be a long-term wealth builder for me to have a fixed rate at a monthly payment that I can afford today, not speculating on making more money in the future, even though we know that most of us will make more money in the future. I think it's helpful. So, and
I think too, when you're approaching it from an advisory role, when people have these legitimate fears and they're saying, it seems unaffordable. The price of eggs a few months ago were $8 for a carton, right? And everything's expensive, and the price of the houses seem crazy. And should I move? Am I making a mistake? Sometimes they just need the reassurance. It's not, you don't need to treat it necessarily as an objection and handle their objection and tell them they're wrong. Sometimes you have to validate their concerns. Sometimes you have to let them vent and let them say, hey, I'm afraid of this because. And sometimes you need to dig into that a little bit deeper, get to the bottom of it. And again, what are they trying to accomplish? What are they trying to move away from? Why do they want to move in the first place? How can you get them there safely? How can you educate them, make them feel comfortable with their decision? And sometimes it comes down to the highest and best use of their money. Is $2,100 of rent the highest and best use of their money? Or for the next 3, 4 years, 5 years, 8 years in buying this house, can you give a projection what that might look like? To me, the highest and best use of money is always going to be owning. If you look at, again, education, the net worth, the average net worth of a homeowner is like $225,000. Average net worth of a renter in the U.S. is $6,000. So putting them on that path and letting them know nothing is permanent. We can get you in here, get you on this path, and then maybe the highest and best use of your money will change in 5 years, and maybe we can transition you to something else. But there's a lot of consultation that goes in there. A lot of vulnerability that goes in these conversations, having people know you, like you, and trust you enough to open up, giving them advice that doesn't seem salesy, but actually is helpful with their best intentions. They need to feel that and read that from you. Not every agent can do that well, by the way. I've seen agents really blow that. It's about connecting with people.
It is, and it's about truly caring, right?
It is. Yeah.
And I'll piggyback on that to say, clients know and they feel when you actually care about them, you're planning it's the strategic conversations versus, and they can feel when you're just trying to get a deal done.
Correct.
And that makes or breaks the trust. And I think.
We call that commission breath. I mean, we have a mint for it. Yeah, it's a great.
Yeah, that sounds terrible. So, but yes, I think, just like with the marketing, you have to play the long game.
Mhm.
And so if you really care about people, right, some people may want to become homeowners, but if you actually sit down and talk to them, they can't afford it yet because of their debt.
Correct.
And so if you have a long-term strategy, work with a good lender partner so that they can figure out how to devise the best pay down on their debt so that they're actually in a position to buy.
Correct.
You will still get referrals from them over time,
And
even if they close from you, right?
That doesn't mean today, you're not necessarily getting the deal today. What that means though is you're setting people up for success in the future. Maybe it means they need some credit repair. Maybe they need to pay down those credit cards so that they get their credit score from 650 to 700 and get the better rate. Maybe there is some things that you're going to do to help them prepare. And I think what you just said is so vitally important because the referrals that come from your SOI is going to be your largest source of business nationally. I mean, every year they track this.
Yep.
Referrals don't just start happening after you close. They actually happen often during the process because that's when it's top of mind for that buyer. They're thinking of buying a house. It's what they see. What happens when you're thinking of something? All you see is home buyers. When you're thinking of buying the red sports car, all you see is red sports cars. It's top of mind.
Yep.
So they're seeing other people buying and they're going, man, this agent has been so great. She's been helping me get, ready for sale. I've got better credit than ever. I'm on a plan. This lender's been taking care of me. You're thinking of buying a house. I gotta connect you with my people.
Yeah.
And the better of an agent you are at getting those referrals, the more your business becomes self-sustaining and there's less effort to grow that pipeline.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. No, I agree with that entirely. So, looks like we have another question from Tracy.
Okay, please name specific ways you connect with your past clients. I love the question, Tracy, because number one, again, past clients are they've already got proof of concept. They've worked with you. They know, like, and trust you. They've worked with you. If you track where referrals come from, past clients are about number one. So connecting with past clients, and I say this all the time, you watch agents work so hard to build a relationship, court them, date them, close them, ghost them, and you look at the numbers on that. 80% of people say, yes, I would work with the same agent again. 12% do. Why?
They can't even remember their name later.
Correct. And whose fault is that? It's ours.
Yeah,
it's ours. So for me, personally, what I love to do is I love to attach an action plan to every closing. Every time, if I closed a house with somebody today, they're going on an action plan and they're not getting generic drip campaigns from me. What I'm getting is specific notices through the year that I should follow up with them. That way I'm reminded and I can set that action plan. If I look at my phone, I go, oh, I got to follow up with so-and-so. I sold them a house 270 days ago. I've got 7 touch points in the first year alone that are just call and text related, not even other communications. But
it's great.
For me, having that action plan and just making sure they don't feel like you wanted their money and now that you got it, you're gone. And that's how a lot of times they feel. So I would love to hear your advice on that. I've got lots of specific ways to connect, but I'd love to hear what your thoughts are.
Early in our business, some real estate business person told us, look, every client you work with is holding a suitcase full of gold. And it's your choice or not as to whether you're going to get it over the years. And we have no need to reinvent a wheel. We were like, that makes a lot of sense. So the ways that we specifically connect with our past clients, through our CRM, we have a very well built out, intelligent method of reminding ourselves. So we do
what CRM do you use?
We use Infusionsoft now.
That's a sophisticated system.
It is a very.
Did you guys set it up yourself?
We did.
Oh my God.
We did, and we still manage it in all the campaigns.
I feel for you on that. That's hefty.
It's a massive thing. I would not recommend the average agent doing it.
It's the best CRM on the planet. And you're not going to beat it for those that know the product. It's huge.
It is amazing. It's like it's like an assistant on its own. Build it right, which is what we've done. But yeah, so we get a reminder. So obviously, please bring a closing gift. I mean, I just think that's permission to play personally, but so there should be a closing gift. That's what, first thing. We do a 1-week check-in phone call. And I think we send, throughout all of it, we have the goal is you do a phone call. If you don't get them live, then you send them an email, and the email has something useful at each stage of it. Like, hey, if you need any handyman or contractor, here's our list, and things like that. So we're always adding value, and being, again, the real estate resource or trusted resource. So we do that several touch points throughout the year, always anniversary calls.
If you agree with that, year one after the closing is so critical. I mean, that to me is when I think about past client action plans, I think year one is so dang critical. Especially, and I've tracked this, the referrals seem to be about 20 to 30% higher in year one because you maintain that relationship beyond the closing.
Yeah.
You're still top of mind. They're still thinking about moving in this house and all the move in, and they just moved and bought it. And it just seems to me that's probably the most critical
That is when
year.
you do a lot. Yep.
Yep.
So we always do anniversary calls. So it's really funny. You're like, oh my goodness, I forgot about it. Or we were just talking about it, but guess who's their agent that's calling, also remembering.
Yep.
We call everybody on their birthdays as well.
Mhm.
Actual real personal call, not just a passive text message or
Right.
Facebook message. And we do several client appreciation events. Okay, so we do newsletters, e-newsletters and printed newsletters. So those are, again, structured ways of being connected. We try to make sure I would recommend as an individual agent, the more personal you keep it. At this point, they already know that you do real estate and they already like you. They don't want to get a generic real estate article from you. So we always built in there, like at the bottom of every newsletter, like keeping up with the Skurat kids. You know, people like to tease us because we have a lot of kids. We have 4 kids. I think it's a perfect number, but some people like to say that we have a lot of kids. But it is really funny because people do pay attention to that. And they care about you. It makes them feel more connected to you. So our Christmas photo card, I send it out to all our past clients that we personally have worked with. In addition to our friends and family. And guess what happens? You get on their list.
Yep, you do.
So, I mean, my kids think it's like the best time of the year because they get all our past clients that end up sending us their cards. I can't even, I mean, I just have like a box now. Keep on our coffee table, but it's super fun.
What you're describing, to really answer Tracy's question, I just want to make sure that you guys are hearing this. You're describing a really kind of a mix between informational stuff that's real estate related and personal. That's the key term, personal relationship items, right? So you're really still focusing on relationship building beyond the closing. When you're bringing them into your family, basically.
Yep.
Because when you hear that word SOI, sphere of influence, right? What does that really mean? It means that, they know who you are, they know you sell real estate, and you have influence with them and vice versa.
Yep.
And the better the conversation, whether it's a phone call, I mean, is there influence in an email? Not a lot. A face-to-face and a phone call, probably higher level influence, better relationship skills. And, there's a certain buffer people keep. There's certain people that I know that if I called, it'd be weird. I don't have a close relationship with them. But your past clients, as you're building that relationship, it's not weird to call them, to check in. Yep. And the more often you do that, the more they kind of bring you, it is, they bring you in to their family and vice versa. You become beyond client, beyond real estate agent and real estate client. That buffer is breached. And when you do that, all things become possible. Yeah, I believe.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's really important. So friend everybody that you've ever worked with on Facebook or social media, and pay attention. So we gift something every time somebody has a baby, and we actually gift something when somebody loses a loved one. So a tree they can plant or wind chimes, depending on context, but people actually notice that. And again, whenever you do have those direct touch points to what you're saying, the referrals always seem to go up more.
Every time. And so there's agents that'll do on those action plans, and we're talking very similar in our action plans. So mine might be 2 days after the move, hey, how did the move go? Is the house making sense to you? Anything we need to go back to the seller? By day 7, I might reach out again and say, now that you're in, have you figured everything out? Does the systems of the house make sense? Is the furnace working? Anything we need to bring back to the seller? Day 30, is the house feeling like home now? So every time I reach out, it's got a different theme, so to speak, a different point I'm trying to make with intention. It's intentional. By the time we're midway into the year, they're so used to hearing from me, and they're like, this person's not going away. This is beyond the real estate sale. It becomes more personal throughout the year. That's why I think that first year is so dang critical. By the time you're into year 2 and 3, you're just friends and family at that point. You've converted from past client and put them in that friends and family bucket, which to me is huge.
Yeah.
All right, we've talked a lot about that. What if we jump to the next question, or do you feel like you have more to add?
No, I was just gonna, the other thing we do is which is associated with the next question about SOI, but we do events every year, so we do about 5 or 6.
Yep.
So when you're starting off, just pick one. I mean, instead of trying to do everything, pick one thing that you get really good at, and then you can add a second thing and get really good at it. So again, we're just copypreneurs. Kerby and I like to joke, we don't need to, so we heard from someone else that they did like pie giveaways around Thanksgiving. That was our first event we ever did. And we were ecstatic to have 30 people show up. We were like, we have 30 people that like and trust us. And just very early on, right? But like people will show up. We have like 700 people that RSVPs for pie every year.
Love it.
I mean, they know they're going to get the invite. They know it's a Tuesday before Thanksgiving. They know they're going to get a big pie and a pound of coffee from us. They sign up for their family events. And I mean, they depend on these. So we do that. We now around Valentine's Day do like a cheap date night on us. So take a bake and a bottle of wine or pizza and a bottle of wine. Our biggest event is the Saints game barbecue. So we rent out the green lawn, the full on thing. We give prize giveaways. We also tie things to charity. So, you know, based on how many people come to our events, we also make donations to the charities that we support. So you can do a lot of those. You can start with something as simple as and easy as like a state of the market webinar. We just did one last week and had a lot of people. And guess what? We had a couple of people who were like, we're thinking about selling, right? That's so, I mean,
of course,
showing up to state of the market, like what is the real estate market doing webinar? People that want to sell.
They're tipping their hand a little bit. Yeah, for sure. They're showing up. That tells you a little something right there.
Exactly.
You know, one thing I love about the event-based marketing is, again, think about influence you get with your people. It's not one-to-one, it's one-to-many, but they're seeing you, they're engaging with you. And it actually provides scale in your business, because when you have to talk to 700 people individually, that is a labor-intensive type deal. But you get a bunch of people together, they see you, they engage with you, they feel like they've been addressed individually, but you're addressing the whole group.
And they come with their family, they tell their family about it.
They do. And it also in that whole, you know, depending how you do your invite schedule and how you prep for this, you can do weeks of the invite. And you know, it could be emails, direct mail, phone call.
Correct. Yeah,
I mean,
100%.
And so you're getting all these different touch points within. And then if you're doing events on the regular, think about that schedule, 4 to 6 weeks invite, you have the event, a thank you for the week after, 4 or 5 weeks off, rinse and repeat. And you're constantly repeating the same thing.
Pretty much what we do all year long.
So you're in front of your people all year long. It gives you the reason. We always, in real estate, we're always going, well, I don't have a reason to call anybody. Well, you do when you have the events. It's giving you that reason, it's supplying it. And now you're top of mind constantly, you know?
Yeah, if you're like, are you thinking about selling anytime soon with your past clients and sphere? That's going to burn out really quick.
Exactly.
So if it's like, how are you doing? How's your anniversary? How's this? Want to come to our free event? Can I buy you pizza and a wine? I mean, come on, who's going to get offended with that?
Correct. Right. So I mean, that's the stuff. It's kind of taking the necessary touch points, turning them into a more comfortable way to do it, and with a better outcome for both you and the client. You know, that's why I'm a huge believer in events. Quarterly, and you can maybe do one big one a year. You know, if you wanted to lead up to a big movie event or, you know, something that's big, not everyone has to be big. They just have to be consistent enough that people see you doing them constantly, you know? All right, let's see what we got. What else? I do want to touch on this too. We talk about SOI a lot. So what I talk about SOI, what I'm really talking about is, again, someone that knows who you are, knows you sell real estate, and you have some influence, regardless of the level sphere of influence. And I think you can't bake an SOI all together because there's different segments of it. A friend and family member might be very different than call it somebody in your professional network. And you look at professional network, for example, and one of my favorite places to get referrals from is other real estate agents. I coach a girl that did 53 transactions from other real estate agents in 1 year. Wow. Why? Because she was traveling across the country to different real estate events. She was on every referral closed Facebook group, including Lab Coat Agents Referral Edition. She worked referral outstate. You know, here in Minnesota, we've got an entire outstate, Alexandria, Duluth, Rochester. If we get to do mailings out there and you know, engage with agents out there, the referrals come in. I know because I've watched it, I've done it. So, you know, I look at SOI and I think, you know, that you can't bake it all in the same temperature. There are different sectors to it. Past client, friend, family, professional network, and your action plans and what you do might vary differently depending upon what sector you're trying to hit. But your professional network, in my opinion, is one that gets so underrated or underused. When you're looking at, you know, other people in industries like ours that rely on referrals, they rely on databases, they do the same thing we do. They understand how we do it. We can build great relationships with them and trade business back and forth. That technically is SOI. They know who you are. They know you sell real estate, and they're going to align and partner with you. We often miss that type of thing. We think only of lenders. I got referrals from a lender, but what about CPAs, attorneys, contractors, small business owners? Yeah, I know agents that do really well in that sector. Friends and family is great. But I look at sometimes the friends and family, they have very small networks themselves. Business owners and professional networks tend to have bigger databases. And past clients, what I love about them so much is the fact that they've already worked with you, know, like, and trust you. And they're like the most apt or excited to refer you. So, I mean, I think you can look at SOI a couple different ways that way, different action plans.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with what you said. And I think ultimately, I mean, the way that I view it is anybody that ever talks to me about real estate going on forward, I try to treat them as SOI in the same marketing campaigns, invitation to the events, the value add. I think that sometimes when agents treat a lead like a lead and they treat that lead differently than they treat their friends and family, they automatically have capped their earning potential for the rest of their lives, because you can't treat a lead differently than your friends and family. If you treat them like your friends and family, they all become part of that. And ultimately, I'm sure you guys have all seen this, but there's some people that are really good at referring to you and some people that are not, even if you've done the exact same thing. I mean, we have people that come and pick up they take all the free stuff from us and have never given referrals. And then you have people that never come to the events and they still give you all the referrals. So I think ultimately you have to go broad enough and have enough value add, and just know the people that are going to refer to you, you definitely want to love on them in a way that they value it. So we track, I would encourage you to do this. We track every referral we get. We track what year they gave it, how many they've given us. And then that allows you to be able to do kind of VIP events more over the course of time, like your top referrals.
Or go deep events where you're taking your top 10 referral sources and you're like spending one-on-one time with them. If somebody that loves to golf, you might be taking them out to a day of golfing on a great course, maybe even a golf lesson with them. I mean, it's like you can go deeper with those really good referral sources. Why? Because they've given you 5, 6, 7 referrals. Add that up in the GCI. It's a lot. And to show gratitude, I think that's one thing that we fail to do with SOI as an industry, is show the proper gratitude for those referrals. It's like they've handed you $10,000 and we maybe send a text saying thanks.
Right.
No.
I mean, minimum permission to play, like call them, say thank you, and send a handwritten card. It's minimum permission.
Minimum. Yep. I mean, literally, it's going to be like, you just gave me $10,000. I mean, you're going to want to recognize that. Some of the things that worked well with me in these action plans, when I break out friends and family, for example, from, my professional network, and the professional network, the one difference, the caveat that I see is we can have conversations more directed around passing business back and forth. I might be able to send a football schedule or a pie recipe postcard. I'm not a fan of those things anyway, but to friends and family, but probably not to the small business owner that's in my SOI. I might have a different action plan for that person. That's one thing that I was really good with working with SOI, because I love people with databases. If they had a database themselves, then I figured out, how do I support your business? How do I support you personally? How do we network back and forth together? That was huge for me, and I don't see a lot of agents doing that.
I think you have some great points with that.
Yeah, I think that was one thing I would say. Like, again, my friends and family. Man, I tell you, I love my friends and family, but most of them just didn't have a lot to give. They would if they could, but they had small networks. They'd be a construction worker working with 3 or 4 other guys all day long, raising 2 kids. Unless he's going to a soccer game or to work, he wasn't going anywhere. He didn't know anybody. He would support me all day long if he ran across an opportunity. He just didn't have it. So one thing I look at my SOI constantly is, do I need to upgrade it? Do I need to go meet more people that have more of a power network? Because sometimes you have a lot of people in your SOI, they're not producing for you. It's just because they have nothing to give. So I look at it like, maybe I got to take a look at needing some more people, some more power networkers, spending the time to build those relationships. And that's really the first step in building the SOI if it's not producing. So, that's another piece of advice. If, be honest with yourself. If your SOI is not producing, is it you? Because you're not really reaching out or not following an action plan or not really connecting with them, or you need to maybe add some more people in there. Because as you said, there's certain people that won't give you anything. And if that's half your SOI, no matter what you do, they're not going to collaborate with you, or they have nothing to give. Then maybe we got to step up the cadence or the rhythm of how fast we meet new people to put in there.
Right.
That becomes a whole separate thing.
And I was going to make a comment to what you said, and I realized what the next question is about. When is the best time and way to ask for review? So I'm just going to tie into both of those, because if you're not getting referrals and you are doing some level of marketing, and you're not getting reviews, then you need to ask yourself, maybe I need to ask a better question. What do I need to do? So this is what I train my agents to do. I say, when you meet with people, ask them, what would I need to do to get a 5-star review from you? how would I need to take care of you throughout the whole transaction,
Mhm.
this whole process, and so that you would want to give me referrals,
Right.
because then you actually know what matters to them. Now,
Mhm.
please don't ask the question if you're not going to listen and actually do what they
Correct.
are requesting of you, because you will for sure get fired.
Correct.
Okay, so most of us obviously would ask a question like that because we want to be able to then deliver or clarify expectations if they're not aligning, right? If
Correct.
you're like, well, if you find a house in Edina under $80,000, I will give you every referral possible. Well, we might need to talk about whether or not Edina has $80,000 properties, right?
Correct.
Outside of that, give them what they need. Not everybody values the same things.
No.
Some people really want written communication with a lot of data.
Mhm.
Some people want a regular phone call or text message or group text. And so make sure you do that. In regard to were you gonna say something?
I was gonna say, I think people make the mistake of assuming everybody wants the same thing.
Yes.
Whether or not it's a seller, they only want the most money for the property. That's all they want. Not necessarily. Some people are much more motivated by convenience or getting the house sold in a very specific time, or whatever the case is. We can't make the assumption that we know what's important to them. We have to ask. Buyer or seller, we have to ask.
Also, remember, if you're working with spouses or something, don't just build a relationship with one of them.
Mhm.
You have to become the master of group emails with summarized conversations, group texts.
Mhm.
And I find that always makes a way better process, because you're typically going to have one more dominant person than the other.
Yep.
But that doesn't, the other one doesn't have opinions or like sways things. So
Right.
do group stuff. So what we do for reviews, I think the best time to ask, and you can tell me, I think it's once you actually kind of go into pending. You've basically done your job to what they can experience. And like you said earlier, that's when they're thinking the most about it. They're talking to everyone, right? What's the big thing in their life right now? They're moving.
Right.
So,
Right.
that's the best time. So we ask that then, and then if we haven't gotten a review from them, we ask at closing
Mhm.
again. And we make it very easy also via an email. Now the agent also says, hey, you're going to get a request from my team for a review.
Mhm.
And we make it literally like a no-brainer easy. Like, here's the link to the agent's Zillow and our Google profile, so that it's like, just click on it and write it and copy paste them. If by then, after closing, they still don't, then we do a third effort coming from me personally that says, hey, did you not have a good experience with my agent? Please give me the feedback. If it's negative, I want to hear it personally.
Correct.
And then I say, if for any reason you just got too busy, here's a link again.
Yep.
And 9 times out of 10, they're like, oh my gosh, I was too busy. The agent did a great job, blah, blah. And then they go and do that because they feel bad that as a team leader, I had to go, and even though it's really all through our magical system.
Right.
But
Right.
if they do respond to it, I directly personally get it, any feedback. And sometimes you're like, I don't believe in Gmail, so I can't post on Google, but this is what I have to say about your amazing agent.
Right.
So then I
Right.
can
Right.
do something like that.
When you think of when the buyer or seller is usually happy, especially buyer, where they're most happy in the transaction, think about that one phone call you get to make. Guess what? You got the offer.
For sure.
That's when you hear the screams of enjoyment. Everybody's freaking out and happy. That to me is like the prime time to say, hey, I was so happy I could share this news with you. I'm sure you got so many people to call and share the news with. Can you do me one favor though? Would you mind filling this out really quick if I send you this link? And I've never seen anybody say no to that.
Right.
I've never seen anybody say no, but you just have to get it to them. And I've even asked them before, while I'm on the phone with you, would you mind filling that out?
Yeah.
If they're going to write you a bad review, they'll probably say, I don't know about that. But like, heck yeah, I'll do it right here with you. They're not going to forget for later. You're on the phone with them. They can fill it. They can do it right on their phone. 5-star and a couple little sentences, boom, done. But you have to. I think what agents do is they forget to ask, or they feel uncomfortable asking, one of the two. They don't want to tarnish that moment of that buyer being happy. But you have to remember, you're building a business here, and you're looking for that proof of concept. You're looking for that social proof that somebody liked working with you. And when they're the most happy working with you, when you got them that offer, they won the multiple offer, you got them $3,000 in or 3% in seller closing costs, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Leverage that time to get the review. And I promise you, that becomes part of your habit. It just becomes habitual. Think about the next 100 transactions of your life. How many reviews are you going to get? Mr. Buyer, Mrs. Buyer, possibly a lender, possibly a title person. There's so many people you get reviews from. You get flooded full of reviews. It's great if you remember to ask for them.
And you have a process for it, I think.
You do. That's a process.
I think
Yes.
a lot of these things, like everybody has a good intention when they close with a client, doing all the follow-ups, the phone calls and stuff like that. And very few do. If you don't have a system,
It has to be systematic.
that makes it so easy for you, because it's just like working out, right? If it's not easy, if it's not something you're just following, it just takes too much effort.
I always say that, motivation, it's like an emotion. It's like a cousin to an emotion. When you feel motivated, it's so hit or miss. You might wake up one day not feeling motivated at all. You can't wait for motivation. You can't wait to feel like doing something.
Yeah.
It has to become habitual. It has to be, because we fall back during times of stress on a habit, good habit or bad.
Yeah.
I might have a really bad habit of eating junk food when I'm stressed out, right? That's a habit. I'm going to go do that. So, the habit I want good habits around business. When times are tough, or when I'm stressed out, or where I'm flying a million miles per hour, I want to fall back on that compulsive habitual behavior.
Yeah.
That's what those systems create. When you're creating systems in your business, you almost feel weird when you don't follow them.
Yep.
Just like any habit, you feel like something's missing.
But you hit on something. It's because you're doing it. I think
Mhm.
systems don't work if somebody's not going to follow them, right?
Right.
So at the end of the day, we still have to have our own doing part in
You
it,
have
for what
to.
you were saying.
But once you build
So-
it, once it becomes habitual, then it becomes to the point it feels weird when you don't. You have to give it enough time though to become a habit and really force it. Don't rely on the motivation. The motivation is not going to get you there. It's got to become habitual. All right. What do we got? What else we got here?
So what if you were a longtime agent with very few reviews? What's your take on going back to past clients and asking for reviews? And what about reviews you have with title, lenders, etc.? I can speak into that.
Go for it.
My opinion is people who like you will always give you a review if they haven't, but you just haven't asked and you haven't made it easy enough. The other thing is you've got to choose carefully a process. Platforms, the main ones that we would use, like Google and Zillow,
Mhm.
they have a lot of protections now against fake reviews.
Yeah, they do.
So what you don't want to do is ask them all at once. We learned the hard way once. We had an event, we had a bunch of laptops there. They were all
Like
real
50,
reviews.
100 people trying to do it
But
at
they,
once. Yeah. Yeah.
because it was near IP addresses and stuff
Yeah.
like that, they blocked them all.
Yeah, they did.
And in our case, it was all actual real human beings that came to our event, which is a
Yep.
really, really big bummer. But should learn from my mistakes and do it right. So maybe phase out and ask no more than 10 a week.
Yep.
And just make sure that you do tackle them all. And also remember to ask more than once. I would call and ask them, followed up with an email, or call and leave them a voicemail, followed up with an email. And you can make it very easy, an email signature, copy paste, again, systems to save time. But that way, statistically, even though we think and want all of them to write them, they just won't, right? So if you even get a 30% fulfillment rate, you should be pretty proud of yourself, right? I mean, you'd think that everybody would do that, but they don't, right? Very few people actually think about even putting their time and energies towards that.
No, and the thing is too, I've also seen people really struggle because they don't know what to write, or they're not good writers, or they overanalyze what they write. The same person that takes 45 minutes to write one social media post, so they stress out about reviews. If you have asked one or two times and they haven't done it, you can almost assume there's a problem going on. So are you happy with my service? Yep, love your service. Can you just do a 5-star review? Don't even write anything. You just give the stars.
Or you can even write your own and say, if you feel this way about me based on your experiences, then you could copy and paste this. I have done this before.
Yep.
Like
100%.
there's a couple of things, like for example, cash offers, or if we ran like a luxury campaign or something. And I've sometimes written what I know they experienced with us.
Yep.
And then I'll say, hey, would you approve this as your review for us to use? And if they in writing give me the approval, they say, absolutely, this is then there you go. But they didn't want to go through the effort of writing, or don't always have the ability to write. I think that's a great point. So again, we have to make it easy for them. We're asking them to do us a favor.
Correct.
They paid us for the services. We did a good job, but we're asking them to go out of the way to do something for us. Let's make it easy.
And if we sense a resistance there, don't avoid it and figure it out. Is it that they don't feel like we did a great job? We talk about it. If they struggle to actually know what to write, we can solve that for them.
Yeah.
So just don't. If you notice there's a resistance there, don't bury your head in the sand, or don't just move on. Tackle it, I would say. All right. So we talked about systems. Sarah asked, what is the best platforms for systems? So I think, when you think about systems, and I used to think about it this way too, you think everything in systems is technology based, and it's not. Sometimes a system can be so easy. I can have a system built around buyers that I have all my showings printed out the night before, and I've got all my mapping done the night before, and I show up 10 minutes early for every single showing because I could run the construction or something of that nature. That's a system. I systematically approach it the same way every time. So when you think about systems, some are so easy and so not technology based. It's just how you spend your time, how you leverage, how you time block, your workflows. Other things are very technology based. So there's no one answer. I don't think that can say what's the best platform for systems. I think the one way to think about systems is, if you have to do anything more than once, turn it into a system. You don't want to keep reinventing the wheel over and over and over again, you know, and you think about it, well, I had to do this thing 2 or 3 times. How can I build a system? What did I learn from doing it 2 or 3 times? What can I cut out? What was inefficient? How can I do this easier and better? How can I save time, money, or effort to do it? That's the kind of way you start developing systems.
It is, yeah. It's like if you've done it more than once or whatever. I mean, and you know, our ops person on our team says, if you've ever written an email more than 5 times, that one should be a signature that you just create now, right? And to what you said, I mean, I think I really believe in touch it once, because that saves you so much time and it's a massive stress reducer. So just to your example about the showing sheets, like don't ever set up showings without mapping it, setting them up, and go and print them. Touch it once. Why would you ever go back in, you know, and then go and print them later? I mean, what a waste of time. So touch it once, just but people don't always do that, right? Or they're like, oh, I'm going to do it, or I'll do it. I'll pull them up on my phone, and then they're asking your questions, and you're like trying to sit there trying to find and find, you know.
One of my systems is I give feedback before I leave the driveway, and the reason I do that because I can never remember the home. You know, the next day I'm like, oh, which one was that again? So, you know, for me, I know if I'm going to give feedback that's accurate, if I'm going to remember to do it in the first place, I get in the car, I literally have it ready to go before I'm, you know, in the car, I pop it up, there's my feedback done, off to the next one, you know. But
which on that note, agents, please always fill out feedback.
Please do.
If again, touch it once, then you stop getting peppered.
Yep, and I suck at I so suck at feedback because if I show 8, 9 houses, I can never remember the first one. I'm like, what do we think of that? Was that the one with the big staircase, or that the one, like, I just can't remember, right? So for me, I have to do it this way if I'm going to do it good and accurate. Before I leave, I got to get it done. But that's a system that works for me. It makes my life easier. You know, so I think we all have to think about whether we're listing agents, buyers agents, no matter how we're running our business, you know, team agents, admin, everybody's got to develop systems that works for them. And the idea of a system is to make things more efficient, more effective, and less time consuming. That's really what it is.
I would agree. I think, I mean, this one's more manual, but I think it's useful when you don't have a CRM or the ability to invest as much in that yourself, or in a massive systematic thing. Calendar management is, I think, the best platform for some of your systems. You can put yourself reminders, things like written lender commitment they do, inspection period ends. I mean, nothing is worse than you realizing at 10 p.m. that the inspection period ended and you haven't negotiated it. I mean, that's just poor form for everybody, right? And it's stressful for you, like you panic attacks at night. Anybody have those? So try to think ahead, give yourself enough time, and look ahead on your calendar to be as efficient as you can. And
one thing that I'm a big believer in systems too is things that are, like I say, habits and rituals. So for me, a good morning ritual is gold. If I'm in a morning routine that's literally the same every single day, I'm going to have the same outcome and results every day. Same with evening. One of my favorite things is evening routines, because for me, if I don't have my stuff worked out for tomorrow, I go to lay down in bed, I have anxiety. Like, I'm going to sit there and go, what time am I supposed to get up tomorrow? What do I got to do tomorrow? And what am I not thinking of? I need to have everything tomorrow written down in my tasks. I got to have my time blocks done. I got to know what time I'm supposed to be here, when my first appointment is. If I don't know those things, I go stressing about it. If I get it out of my head and on paper, I can go to bed and relax and know that it's taken care of, right? But that's my system. We all have to have our systems that work for us, right? So around your time management, your workflows, your processes with buyers and sellers, build systems. And it's okay to keep tweaking them. You can keep finding better ways to do it, tweak it. But, you know, once you start thinking in terms of systems, you're going to find that you buy, and this is the commodity, time. You're going to buy so much of your time back. And we look in real estate, where do we really suffer? It's time management. If we spent more time doing the thing that actually makes us money, spending more time in front of high intent buyers and sellers, more time lead generating and referral generating, if we spent more of our time doing those high dollar producing activities, we'd all make more money. But instead, we're doing these non-dollar producing activities because we're doing the same thing over and over and over, but not building systems around it. That's where I think we need to focus. Build those systems, make your life easier, more efficient, more effective, be happier. That's how I look at it.
I'll just make one final comment. It's not everybody's giftings to be good at all of those.
No,
things.
It's not.
And I think that's where teams come in, where, you know, there's small teams, there's big teams or whatever. But if you know that you're not going to, you don't like marketing, or it bogs you down, you can't write, like, you know, or you're not a systems kind of a person, it's hard for you to leverage your highest and best skill set, which is probably sales, relationship building, and all that, if you're bogged down by these things that you're not good at,
Mhm.
and if you can plug and play, that's where you can elevate and shoot up. And so there are places where you don't have to like create all the whole wheel yourself.
It's funny you said that, because I always classify or define teams to sort of look at pay at closing support service. It's like you're outsourcing all these things, all the leverage to the team. And as you said, sometimes you sit an agent down and you talk to them about building their own pipeline. They go, I know how to talk to people. If I get on the phone, I know what to say. If I get in front of people, I know what to say. I'll get the client. All the back end stuff to get there, can't do it, right? So you're literally outsourcing that piece, and it's pay at closing. Let's face it, as a team leader, you know that Realtor.com or Zillow or any of the places you're getting leads from or platform fees from, they don't care about how many deals you close that month. They want their money on the first of the month, period.
Yep.
No excuse, right? Where the agents get the opportunity to offshore and outsource a lot of that expense.
All the risk, all the expense.
All the risk, all the expense, and then they're able to then focus on their highest and best use. So which again is going to be high intent buyers and sellers. Are they going to pay a split for it? Yes, but they should in theory do more volume because it's taking that other stuff.
Doing what they love more.
Correct.
And
Yes.
the more raving fans you develop, the
Mhm.
easier the job long-term.
Correct. So not that everybody's gonna be a team agent, not that everybody's gonna be a solo agent. You gotta find what's good for you.
Yep.
Some people make the mistake of thinking they're gonna be a team leader too, and that's a terrible mistake for them. So you gotta know what authentically is right for you, but these are all good ideas to explore.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're about at time. I told you we could keep talking all day long. I know we could go another hour easily, but we're about at time. I think we've got everything wrapped up here, all the questions. So again, I wanted to thank you. I feel great about the conversation today. Hopefully our audience at home has picked something out of it that they're going to go, that was valuable. I'm glad I was here. So thank you for coming in again.
Thank you for having
We'll
me.
catch you on the next one.